work alongside each and every day. Many of you may not know Sean standing next to me and Elizabeth standing next to Sean. Sean is the head of our labor relations work here at the City of Toronto and has a long history of working collaboratively with our union partners. And Elizabeth leads the team that's negotiating with Local 79 and has been at the table since day one. And I want to thank them for all of their hard work. They are there each and every day and are obviously responsible for putting together the work that we need to do from our side, because it is the communication, it is the discussion, it is the bargaining that is going to ensure that we get the right deal for our workers and for the City of Toronto. We are committed to getting a deal and reaching a deal at the table, and that's what we need to focus on. We do not want unnecessary disruptions to the vital services that our workers provide and our residents rely on each and every day. I will say off the top that we believe at this stage of negotiations we have a very fair deal on the table, one that we can continue to work around, but one that is in its very early stages a very fair and responsible offer. Indeed, we do believe here at the City of Toronto our workers are worth it. And if you look at the collective agreement work that has happened prior to our negotiations with Local 79, I think we demonstrate that. At the top line level, our offer is nearly 15% in terms of wage increases over 4 years. This 4-year agreement will allow the city to plan budgets and operations for that period and has the added benefit of providing stability for our workers and their families in what are continuing to be uncertain economic times and made even more uncertain by recent events south of the border. So, there's lots of connection that and many people know between Local 416, many of whom work alongside our Local 79 members. And you will know that many of the members of Local 416 accepted this wage proposal, 14.65% over 4 years, late last year, and we were really pleased to see that happen. And for at least 25 years, these unions have always settled on the same terms at that top line level. And then we work at specific things that are unique within each of our bargaining units. And this works well so that we can have obviously no divide between those very important unions, and it's in the best interest of our services as well. I want to say that our bargaining team has worked hard each and every day. We are at the table each and every day, and we have made it clear to Local 79 that we will bargain each and every day if that's what it takes. And I really do believe that the focus over this next period of time needs to be about being at the table, having the discussions at the table, and getting us to the agreement that we need to be. You've heard me say a few times already that I talked about the top line level around the wages. I want to go into a bit of that because we recognize very much so, and I think you heard this morning, Local 79 leadership say the same thing, that there are specific roles within the bargaining unit that have unique wage concerns, and we agree. Some of that is around recreation. We have a proposal at the table that would ensure 92% of all part-time recreation hours would be paid above minimum wage. Currently, that's about 57%. So a significant move. We understand that minimum wage is just that. It is the minimum level that we should be investing in our workers here at the City of Toronto. And again, a specific proposal in addition to that top line offer in terms of how we work with recreation workers. In addition, we've offered to discuss special wage adjustments for key positions such as nurses, municipal standards offers, and others to ensure that these jobs remain competitive with those around us in the marketplace who we compete with each and every day from a recruitment and retention perspective. And if you don't believe we're serious, you just need to look at the decisions that this organization has made and council has made before we got to the bargaining table at the end of our collective agreement. We took action on building officers. We took action on planners in this organization. We took action on mechanics. Why? Because again, when we have good workers at the City of Toronto, we want them to remain strong and good workers at the City of Toronto. We did some of that work well outside of the normal collective bargaining cycle because we were simply not willing to see an exodus of people from this organization simply based on the fact that we were not competitive. So to get at these special situations, to get at these special wages that we need to address, to get this deal over the next 4 years, we need to be at the bargaining table. We've worked with the Ministry of Labour and their conciliators, and we've worked with them to try and make sure that we can stay at the table. Local 79 has been coming to the table, and I just want to encourage everybody to be at the table. And so to the leadership of Local 79, let's do our work at the table. This is not where the work is going to get done at a podium by the city manager or by the leadership of the union. It's going to happen at that table, and we're going to get somewhere because that's the way we've been getting places for many, many decades here at the City of Toronto. It's our team who are committed to this, working with Local 79, who I know are committed to their workers as well, and we will get there. Negotiations, though, do require both sides to be fully engaged. It requires us to commit to schedules, to commit to that, to sit down at the table and make sure it's there. We're available 7 days a week, and we want to make sure that there isn't a disruption. And I think that's where I want to try and wrap up with my opening comments before I get to questions. Just so it's very clear, the City of Toronto does not want a disruption in service. You can see that in the pattern of our negotiations with other unions and with other parts of our organization over the past number of months. We don't want our city to be without vital services. We don't want disruption for those who live, work, play, and learn in this great community. So we want to make sure that we can find a way to get to a deal, and we are committed to doing that. We do, however, feel that we need to, remind both our partners at Local 79 and their leadership, as well as all Torontonians, that it has to be a good deal for the City of Toronto and our finances, as well as a good deal for our workers. And I think that's the key piece to all of this. Let's get back to the table. Let's work at some of these point issues which have been raised this morning by Local 79 that we have ideas around. We want to hear ideas, and we want to come to some kind of agreement. So before I take some questions again, I just want to thank our team for all of our work. And I know that some of what's been mentioned publicly is that we have a real, crisis in terms of retention and recruitment here at the City of Toronto. I'm pleased to say that over the years following the pandemic, we have done a better and better job at lowering the vacancy rate. We have some pockets where vacancies were quite high, and we have a pattern of addressing that. And that's why we've talked very specifically today about nurses. We know that in our long-term care facilities, there are some positions that need to be addressed, that we do have a higher than average vacancy. But a year ago, our vacancy rate across the City of Toronto was nearly 9%. Today, it's 7.3%. So we are making progress in terms of retention and recruitment. We know that there are pockets where we need to do better, and we want to work with the union leadership to make that happen. So with that, I'm happy to take some questions. I do just want to say out of the gate, we're not going to get into the minute issues that may be at the table. We're not going to negotiate in terms of front of the media, but I'm happy to talk about the big things that we are trying to accomplish together and address any of your questions. So thank you.
Can you just use the mic, everyone? If you can all use the
Go
mic.
ahead,
One question, one
Sorry.
follow-up, and we'll go around time permitting.
Hi, Paul. Matthew Bing with Global News. You mentioned the 416 negotiations and how they've been in line and how you thought that was fair. One thing specifically that 79 said this morning is that 416 is a very different union. They're workers of a different skill set, and they basically considered that comparison with 416 to be bad faith bargaining. And I would just be wondering what you would have to say in response.
Well, I think historically that's not been the sentiment. I mean, you look, this isn't something that happened just through the last set of negotiations. It's nearly 3 decades of work that's happened around that. So each one of the parts of our workforce are different. Nurses are different than our childcare workers. They are different than our recreation workers. So I have no disagreement with the fact that workers are different across all of our unions. But I think when you look at the work that's happened, and again, it's not happened over one or two of the last collective agreements, it's been many, many years, we still hold true to that principle, and I think we can get there with this type of a deal. But I go back to it, regardless of what you think about that, I think a 14.65% wage increase over 4 years as the base, and then looking at some specific work to be done with various wage categories and categories of workers is a very fair offer to be on the table at this point.
And when it comes to the rec center contracts with minimum wage, because minimum wage seems to be a major sticking point with them, you mentioned that you're willing to go up to 96%, but why not the full complement?
So there are, part of this goes back to some work that happened about tethering the first set of a small number of employees to a minimum wage. But the reality is that for some of our workers, this is the first job they're getting at very young ages. And while we're committed to doing some major work at reducing the number of people with minimum wage, we still believe that there's going to be some small numbers that are at that minimum wage level. And I think it's all about movement. That is a significant movement. You know, today it's about 57% that are above minimum wage. That's moving to 92%. That's significant movement around that particular piece.
Paul Mullen-Crushy, 680 News Radio.
The union representing the City of Toronto's 30,000 workers has moved one step closer to a potential strike.